I think we can start, and it's my privilege to call on our first speaker, Dr. Weintraub, who will be our first speaker in the panel session, looking at factors enabling anchor universities engaged status. Dr. Weintraub, are you up and ready and raring to go?
Excuse me, yes, I am ready. Thank you very much. And I will go ahead and share my screen now.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so you should be seeing my title slide.
Yes, we do.
Great, thank you. Well, thanks to all of you very much, Cornell, Priscilla, and Pearl, and everyone who's organized this event and who's invited me to be a part of it. It's really exciting to be there. I would obviously love to be there in person, but Zoom is the next best thing. But I am really excited to be joining you today. And really, what you just heard from Susan Reno was a fantastic background and overview, and she did a lot of the work by setting the stage for everything I'm about to say. So I want to thank Susan for doing a really terrific job of giving the overview of that. And you would never hear this directly from Susan because she is much too humble to say this, but she really is the center of the broader impacts universe here in the United States, and the one that we all look to for leadership and guidance. And so it's such a thrill and an honor and a privilege to get to work with Susan and get to be part of the same program as her today. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and follow up a little bit on some of the things that she alluded to. She did a really nice job of introducing broader impacts and the role that an Office of Broader Impacts can play within an institution. And so I'm going to tell you about a specific program that ERIS developed under Susan's leadership so that we could help institutions play that role more effectively. Just by way of background, my name is Jory Weintraub. I'm a biologist by training, PhD in immunology, but I've spent most of my career focusing on science communication and public engagement with science. And that's how I ended up working on broader impacts and working with the ERIS community. So Susan mentioned a little bit about ERIS. I think you all probably have some sense of who we are. We're an organization and funded by the National Science Foundation in the United States to support and promote broader impacts and research impacts work, to build a community, to produce and share resources to help people do a more effective job of developing, implementing, and evaluating their own research impacts work within their institution. And we have broadly 3 pillars that ERIS is built on: training, partnerships, and scholarship. I am most involved in the training pillar. I'm one of 3 members of ERIS training team, along with my colleagues Megan Heitman and Janice McDonnell. And so we've been working on training really since before ERIS was ERIS. We've been involved with training going back to our previous identity as NABI, the National Alliance for Broader Impacts. And initially, almost all of our training efforts within NABI and then subsequently with ERIS were focused on what I refer to as one-off visits. So an institution, a university would invite us to come visit their campus. We'd spend half a day or a day there. We'd run a series of workshops. These are all very active, activity-based, lively workshops. And we felt, and our evaluation data demonstrated, that we were actually having a really great impact on that community in terms of raising their level of understanding of and comfort with broader impacts work, how to do it and how to do it well. So we felt we were having an impact, but we realized that we were only really having an impact on the people who happened to be in the room at the time. So we'd visit a university, they might have 5,000 faculty doing research, and 30 of them would be in the room with us getting this broader impacts training. And so we felt good about the training that those 30 were getting, but we knew that as soon as we finished our workshop and went back to our respective homes, that sort of brought an end to the intensive focus on broader impacts. And if you weren't in the room during that workshop, you may not have had access to that information and that training. So we realized that with ERIS, what we really wanted to do was take it a step further and think about how to not just change an institution for 30 people for a half a day, but really help an institution change in a big way over the long term so that they could expand their internal capacity for supporting broader impacts and research impacts efforts. And so out of that goal, the ORIC program was born. And ORIC stands for Organizational Research Impact Capacity. We call it organizational as opposed to institutional because we really designed this program not just with universities in mind, although that's certainly probably the bulk of people who work with the ORIC program, but any organization that is engaged in some aspect of research and would like to do a better job of supporting the communication of the impacts of that research. So we want to be a bit more broad than just bringing in universities. We want it to be organizations that do and support research. So the basic idea behind ORIC, as I said, was rather than spending a half a day there, we work with the institutions over the course of a full year to help them really become experts in research impacts and become comfortable not needing to come to us for expertise because they've developed that expertise in-house. There are several key elements of this that I want to just briefly mention so you understand the program a little bit better. One is that this is a one-year cohort-based program. So each cohort that we admit into ORIC has 5 institutions or organizations who are committing to work with us over the course of a full year. During that year, we provide them with training, mentoring, resources, ERIS resources that we've developed, as well as connecting them to other community resources, and then building a community of practice for people who participate in that cohort. One of the key things, and Susan alluded to this in her talk, was that we knew it was important to not just have the RI or research impact professionals, the people who are actually doing the training and the consultation with researchers, but that we needed administrative buy-in. We needed someone at the administrative level to really serve as a champion and an advocate for the efforts of the research impact professional. And so to be part of the ORIC program, we're actually looking for each institution to send us what we call the research impact team or the RI team. And that consists of RI professionals as well as the administrative partner to be that high-level advocate and champion. And then finally, the program is built around a series of what we call RI or research impact milestones. And I'll show you those briefly. I won't have time to talk through each one individually, but I'll just show you them briefly so you get a sense of what they are. The ultimate goal, again, of all of this is to help institutions increase their internal capacity to support research impacts efforts within their institution or organization, and ultimately to increase the total number of institutions and organizations that feel comfortable doing this. So here is a slide summarizing the RI milestones. These are the things that the RI teams need to work on over the course of the year that they work with us. It includes things like a Train the Trainer series, where we share with them the experiences and the strategies and methods that we use for our training programs. Developing a landscape analysis of the current RI landscape or research impact landscape within that organization or institution at the time they start with us, and then updating that at the end of a year to measure the change and the growth in their RI capacity. Developing a searchable database of potential RI partners, which I believe you're going to hear more about in the next talk. Developing a website to support researcher efforts, and the list goes on and on. So we've developed this set of milestones based largely on the work initially done by Susan Reno and the Connector, and subsequently other institutions that are represented as part of ERIS leadership, where we've developed these types of offices at our institutions, and we're drawing on the things that we think are critical to have a well-functioning RI support office. And so just really briefly, again, I don't have time to go through all of this in detail, but a quick look at how participating institutions benefit from being a part of the ORIC program. First and foremost, it allows them to become part of this community of practice. And as I'll tell you more about in a minute, we found that that's a really essential element of this. We give them access to all of the training materials that we've developed. And so they don't have to develop their own. They're certainly encouraged to do so, but we start them out by giving them access to all the training resources that we've developed over the years. We provide professional development and training. We provide counseling and consultation for the admin partners, and Susan leads them in sort of coming up with strategies together to increase the impact of their work at their institution. And the list goes on and on. So there are a lot of really important ways that institutions benefit from this. And then finally, in my last couple minutes, I just want to share with you some general observations. We're about not quite 2 years into this project now. We did a 1-year pilot study, and we are currently working with our second cohort, which of course includes Cornell and Priscilla and Pearl as one of the members of the cohort. But from the pilot study, we had some general observations that I want to share with you. And one of them is that the chemistry or the community built within the cohort of institutions, the 5 institutions, was really essential. It was largely a process of community building, and it turned out to be a real strength. And I can tell you that the pilot study participants are, well into the second year past their completion of this, and are still a very cohesive group that communicate all the time as a community. So that was a real strength. We discovered that the team approach was more essential than we anticipated. And what I mean by that is that not just having a single RI professional working with a single admin partner, but actually having multiple RI professionals working together, because there's a lot of work to be done here. And having a team approach for the RI professionals is a really essential piece of that. I'm happy to talk more about that if you have questions. We also found that flexibility on our part was really essential, because over the course of the pilot study, and we're now seeing it with this current cohort as well, everybody takes a slightly different approach. And because they take a different approach, we need to be flexible in supporting them in whatever way serves them the best. And we really feel, as Susan mentioned, that this RI team, which was made up of the RI professional and the administrative partner, is crucial. You have to have that administrative champion really to have long-lasting change within the institution. And finally, a common theme to emerge over and over was that the participants in our program were using ORIC as a way to change the language and dialogue and narrative and attitudes about research impacts within their institution, which really to us was a great sign of success. So I'm just going to share with you quickly some resources that I put together for you. You can read more about the ORIC program at the top link, more about ERIS in general at the second link. And then I've linked to a couple of great resources, including the Broader Impacts Wizard, which was developed by my colleague Janice McDonald, who's on the training team with us. And I think I'm right at 10 minutes, so I will stop there, and I will thank you all for your participation. I hope I didn't rush through that too quickly, but if I am allowed, I have a few minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Weintraub. You were amazing with the time. We will take all questions at the end. We have a Q&A session at the end. Colleagues, you'll see in the program, there was a clip to be shown. We will share the links to those clips so that you can watch at your leisure. So I think in the interest of time, Kunal, you have your hand raised?
Yes, Prof. Fielding, if participants can just pose their questions to Jory in the chat, because he has students to start a session with, so he might not be able to stay to the end. But then we can always pass back the information to him, because we stole some of his valuable time this morning. So he got up early, but now his office time will start soon.
Okay. Kunal, we still, Dr. Weintraub saved us about 3 minutes. So I think we could maybe take one question for him if it's a short question. With your permission, you're the boss.
Yes, let's hear if there's just anything pertinent that you feel that you need to discuss now immediately, other than the contact details are there. And remember, colleagues, on the website, you can via the blog also contact him. He's very good at responding. There's just always a couple of hours of delay because of us being in afternoon and morning time. But he gets through, I don't know how many emails a day. So please feel free to communicate via the blog.
I don't see any burning questions. So Dr. Weintraub from our, there's one, Professor Lavak, hand raised.
It's not a question, but rather a comment, just to thank him for including our colleagues in the program. As I said in the chat, it was for me an absolute joy to sign on the dotted line. I'm really excited to follow you know, the impact of the ERIS program and how it will feed back into what we do at UWC. So thank you very much for that, Dr. Weintraub.
Well, and again, thanks to all of you there at UWC for being fantastic partners in this. I'll be really honest that when we set this up, we really envisioned it being for US-based institutions. But when Cornell reached out to us and said, would we be eligible to apply? Susan and I sat down and said, you know, they've been such great partners already and participating in our international office hours series. And we agreed that our US-based colleagues would really learn a lot, and the ORIC program would be even more powerful if we could bring in that international perspective. So the nice thing about making up a program from the ground up is that you can make up whatever rules you want. And so we wrote in the University of the Western Cape clause, which says that we'll bring in an international partner for our ORIC cohort. And it's been an absolute delight to work with Pearl and Priscilla and Cornell, and they've been great partners. So thank you.